Today I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about how the spiral silence theory and how that theory applies to the workplace. And the reason why I decided to talk about this was because as far as personal experience goes, obviously we are all in college to get jobs. So obviously maybe some of us are taking a non-traditional class because we have to work. So unlike a traditional college student who may have a choice whether or not to work, we obviously all at one point are going in or are currently in the workplace. So I feel like it's definitely an important topic to discuss. And it's definitely a theory that can be applied to the workplace. Whether or not people are happy with wages, or people are not happy with policies, or whether or not you have a certain supervisor or coworker who doesn't exactly treat you in the best way. So one of the quotes that I was able to find through one of my journal readings was from a guy called Hirschman, and I think this is about a study that he did in about 1970. And basically, his definition of voice, it was any attempt to change rather than escape a objectable state of affairs. So I thought that really rolled along quite well with his speech. That was from a journal entry, and I am going to read this off because I was not able to memorize all my journal entries. So it was from Craig C. Pinder and Karen P. Harbs, and it was from their journal entry, Employee Silence, Coincidence and Accidents as Perceived Response to Justice. So that's where that was from. And along with that journal entry, I found out that they described coincidence as an employee who is objecting or objectionable to that injustice, but they do give out deliberate omission, which is kind of different than acquiescence, because acquiescence is an employee who is aware of the injustice, but they accept it more. The exact definition is that acceptance of organizational circumstances. So they're kind of accepting of it, and they're limited as to any sort of awareness that certain issue could be addressed or changed. So they really are not going to be the ones to speak up. I guess you could describe them as more as an observer than somebody who is ready to speak out and somebody who's ready to change them, either by their actions or verbally. So the way that this works is that I'm going to go ahead and describe things that actually keep employees silent. Among those things would be the fear of what would happen if they did speak up, what would happen if they did actually take action. Another fear is what their fellow co-workers or the other employees that they work with are going to think about them, or what they're going to say. So what kind of, social sanctions would they put on them? I know personally I did actually speak out against somebody who was being unjust to me. She actually physically came after me. And unfortunately, the company I work for, which I'll leave out, has actually, they suspended me, and the other employees are actually angry at me. So I'm like, okay, well, didn't do anything. So I guess I can kind of understand that foundation of fear about, what are the other employees going to say. Another thing that will keep somebody silent is going to be the fear of being viewed negatively. So are they going to be labeled a troublemaker? Are they going to be labeled a whistleblower? As a previous business class I took over at Penn State addressed, whistleblowers are not always looked at in a positive manner. One way he kind of described that was with the ignition switches, and if I'm correct, that was with Ford. So, I mean, she kind of just came in and she addressed the issue with the ignition switches, and she actually lost her job over it. So whistleblowers and the way that people look at you is not always good after you perceive or try to change something. So something that attributed to this as well that I thought was pretty interesting was the mum effect. This was found in research done by Milken, Morrison, and Hewlin. They had a journal entry in the Journal of Management Studies, and that was also done in 1970, I believe. So it was called the mum effect, and I thought it really went into cohesion with the fact of why employees remain silent. They define the mum effect as individuals that have a general reluctance to convey negative information because of the discomfort associated with being the conveyor of bad news. So ways to actually pick up on maybe unjust things happening or even workplace bullying include decreased morale, decreased profits, decreased productivity, low work intensification, low satisfaction from employees, and like low motivation, and actually declining commitment to the organization or the company that they work for. Workplace factors that contribute to that silence, that employee silence, that spiral of silence theory are the hierarchies. While you're inevitably going to have them, cutting off that communication on the different levels from the, per se, where I work, from the employees down in the mailroom to the employees that are doing the customer service and office duties really harms morale, and it actually harms communication. So in that manner, hierarchies can attribute to that employee silence. It just restrains that free communication between people, and it sets up a high status, low status sort of mentality. Alienation can contribute to workplace silence. Another thing that can contribute to workplace silence is negative superiors or negative peer groups. So the spiral of silence can actually occur at any organizational level. And it can also occur the same way that it occurs with people who see something unjust and don't say anything at all. So the exact definition that I actually have written down is, I'm not going to say it's a definition, but the explanation that I have written down is that the spiral of silence can occur at any organizational level in the same way it begins with observers to enact workplace injustices. And that was bought out of a journal entry from Michael G. Harvey, and the label of his journal entry was "A Bully as an Archetypical Destructive Leader." So basically, the way that I would apply this in our everyday lives is just understanding the importance of, when to speak up, when not to speak up. It is important to speak up, I guess. I guess you just have to do it in the right way, but it is important to speak up. If we choose to be observers in the workplace of things that should not be happening, then I think we're just as guilty as the person who's doing the injustice. So I think this really just stresses, just to do the right thing in the workplace, I guess would be my advice. So I hope you enjoyed my speech. It was a minute longer than it was supposed to be, but you all have a wonderful night. Thank you.